In the autumn of 2013, construction workers excavating for a geothermal energy project in the volcanic highlands of southern Iceland broke through into a chamber that had been sealed beneath solidified lava for approximately 9,000 years. The chamber was oval, roughly 6 meters long, 4 meters wide. The walls were basalt volcanic rock that had cooled and hardened around a natural cavity. And inside, 15 people, arranged in concentric circles, 2 rings. The outer ring contained 10 bodies. The inner ring held 4. And at the exact center, equidistant from all others, sat a single woman. Alone, isolated, surrounded but untouched. No skeletal trauma, no signs of violence, no evidence of collapse. Just 15 people arranged in geometric precision around one woman whose hands were unlike any hands they had ever seen, because her hands had been painted. Completely, every finger, every palm, every surface from wrist to fingertip, painted in layers: red ochre, black manganese, white clay, yellow ochre again. So many layers that the pigment had penetrated bone structure, creating hands that were more color than calcium. Hands that had been painted while she was alive, repeatedly, obsessively, until the pigment became part of her skeleton. The construction supervisor's emergency call to the National Museum of Iceland contained one detail that would define the investigation. The woman in the center, her hands are wrong. They're not bone, they're paint. This is the story of one woman who sat at the center, while 14 people surrounded her and painted her hands until death. 9,000 years ago, Iceland was barely inhabited. The island had only recently emerged from glacial coverage as the last ice age ended. Volcanic activity was intense. Lava flows regularly reshaped the landscape. The earliest confirmed human settlement of Iceland dates to approximately 800 CE Norse colonization, over 8,000 years after this chamber was sealed, which meant the people in this chamber weren't Icelandic in any conventional sense. They were something else, something earlier, a population that reached Iceland before recorded history, before the Vikings, before written accounts. Dr. Sigríður Kristjánsdóttir, chief archaeologist for the Icelandic Archaeological Institute, led the investigation. Her initial assessment confronted an impossible timeline. Human remains dated to approximately 7,000 BCE in a location that wasn't supposed to have human occupation for another 8,000 years. Her preliminary report included this observation: "We are investigating a population for which we have no historical record. They reached Iceland during the Mesolithic. They modified a volcanic chamber. And they performed a ritual so specific, so controlled, that it suggests sophisticated symbolic behavior we did not know existed in this region during this period." The investigation of Hellir Malningana Cave of Paintings took 41 months and required collaboration with specialists in Mesolithic European archaeology, volcanic geology, and bioarchaeological pigment analysis. What Dr. Kristjánsdóttir's team uncovered was obsessive, reverential, and increasingly focused on one woman's hands. First, the chamber formation. The cavity was natural, created when lava flowed around a gas pocket and cooled, but the interior had been modified. The floor had been leveled using crushed pumice and volcanic sand. The walls had been smoothed in specific areas where people would sit. Ventilation channels had been deliberately blocked using clay and stone. Someone had converted a natural lava tube into a controlled, sealable space, and then they had sealed it. The entrance, a narrow tunnel approximately 4 meters long, had been filled completely with basaltic rubble and clay, packed tight. No gaps, no air exchange. Geological analysis confirmed the chamber had been sealed before the surrounding area was covered by subsequent lava flows. The people inside had closed themselves in first. Then, centuries later, volcanic activity had buried the entrance under meters of solid basalt. They had been entombed twice. Once by their own hands, once by the mountain. Second, the arrangement. The 15 individuals were positioned with mathematical precision. The outer ring of 10 people sat in a perfect circle approximately 4 meters in diameter. The inner ring of 4 people sat in a smaller circle, approximately 2 meters in diameter. And the woman at the center sat exactly in the middle. Her distance from the nearest person in the inner circle was identical in all 4 directions, 1.1 meters. She was positioned in geometric isolation, surrounded but unreachable. All 15 individuals were sitting, legs crossed, back straight, but their hands were positioned differently depending on their location. The 10 people in the outer ring sat with hands resting in their laps, palms up, fingers relaxed. The 4 people in the inner ring sat with hands extended forward. Toward the woman at the center, palms facing her, fingers spread. And the woman at the center sat with her arms extended outward, hands raised to shoulder height, palms facing forward, painted fingers spread wide, as if she were displaying them, or offering them, or holding something invisible between her hands and the people reaching toward her. Third, the demographics. Osteological analysis revealed the 15 individuals ranged in age from approximately 25 to 60. There were men and women in both circles. No children, no adolescents, no elderly beyond their early 60s. This was a selected group, adults in mature years, people with experience and authority. Genetic analysis revealed something unexpected. The 14 people in the circles were closely related. Shared mitochondrial DNA, sibling relationships, parent-child connections. They were family. But the woman at the center wasn't. Her genetic markers showed she came from a different population entirely. Different maternal lineage. Different geographic origin based on isotope signatures. She had lived elsewhere for most of her life, somewhere warmer, lower elevation, different diet. And then she had come here, to this volcanic island, to this chamber, to sit at the center of a circle of people who weren't her kin. Fourth, the painted hands. The woman's hands were covered in pigment, layers upon layers, colors alternating, red, black, white, yellow, red again. Dr. Christiansdottir brought in Dr. Emma Bergström, a specialist in archaeological pigment analysis from Uppsala University. Her examination using X-ray fluorescence and scanning electron microscopy revealed the extent of the painting. The pigment wasn't just on the surface, it had been absorbed into the bone matrix, through the periosteum, the outer membrane of living bone, into the trabecular structure, the spongy interior network. The painting had occurred while she was alive, repeatedly, over weeks or months, each layer applied and allowed to absorb before the next layer was added. Chemical analysis identified the pigments: red ochre from iron oxide, black from manganese dioxide, white from kaolin clay, yellow from limonite, all naturally occurring, all available in Iceland's volcanic landscape. But the binding agents were organic. Dr. Bergström identified traces of seal fat and egg albumin substances that would help pigment adhere to skin and facilitate absorption. Someone had carefully prepared paint, applied it to the woman's hands, allowed it to absorb into tissue, repeated the process, over and over, until her hands were saturated, until bone itself carried color. Over the next year, Dr. Christiansdottir's team conducted microscopic analysis, trying to understand the timeline and sequence of events. Analysis of the chamber floor sediment revealed something unexpected. The painting had occurred inside the chamber. Traces of pigment powder, grinding stones, and preparation debris were scattered in a specific area of the outer circle. Someone had been mixing paint while sitting in formation, and the distribution of pigment dust suggested the painting had been ongoing even after the chamber was sealed. Dr. Christiansdottir brought in Dr. Thor Magnusson, a specialist in volcanic cave atmospherics. His calculations showed that in a sealed chamber of this size with 15 people, oxygen depletion would occur gradually over approximately 24 to 36 hours. The 15 people would have remained conscious and capable of movement for most of that period. They had time to sit, time to paint, time to complete whatever they believed they were doing. Bioarchaeological analysis by Dr. Helga Olafsdottir revealed skeletal indicators of the final hours. All 15 individuals showed evidence of hypoxia oxygen deprivation, but the progression was gradual, controlled. The woman at the center showed something additional. Her cervical vertebrae neck bones displayed unusual positioning. Her head had been tilted back, face upward, for extended periods before death. Dr. Olafsdottir's analysis suggested she had maintained this position intentionally. Muscles strained, head held back, looking upward in a sealed chamber with no light, looking at nothing, or looking for something only she could see. And then came the discovery of the marks. When archaeologists examined the basalt ceiling directly above the woman's position, they found scratches, faint, almost invisible against dark volcanic rock. Using oblique lighting and digital enhancement, Dr. Christiansdottir revealed the pattern: fingernail marks, dozens of them, concentrated in a small area directly above where the woman's head would have been. The ceiling was over 2 meters high, too high for a seated person to reach. Unless she had stood, unless she had reached upward, unless she had scratched at stone above her while standing in the exact center of the formation. But skeletal evidence showed she died sitting, so the scratches must have been made before she assumed her final position. At some point after entering the chamber, after the ceiling, after the painting had begun, she had stood, reached upward, scratched at the ceiling with her painted fingers, and then she had sat down again, extended her arms, displayed her painted hands, and remained there until death. In 2015, Dr. Bergstrom made a discovery that transformed the entire interpretation. While examining high-resolution photographs of the painted hands, she noticed patterns in the pigment layers. The colors weren't random. The application followed a sequence: red is base layer, black is second, white is third, yellow is fourth, red again is final. 5 layers total, each approximately 3 to 5 millimeters thick once absorbed into tissue. But here's what made it significant. When Dr. Bergstrom mapped the distribution of each color layer, she found that different fingers had different numbers of layers. The thumbs had all 5 layers, the index fingers had 4 layers, the middle fingers had 3 layers, the ring fingers had 2 layers, the small fingers had only 1 layer, the red base coat. The painting hadn't been uniform, it had been progressive, starting with thumbs and working toward the smallest fingers, like a countdown, or a sequence, or a measurement of something passing. And when Dr. Bergstrom examined the final red layer under magnification, she found something embedded in the pigment: particles of volcanic ash, fresh ash from an eruption, mixed into the final paint layer. Dr. Kristjansdottir consulted with volcanologists. They analyzed the ash composition and compared it to known Icelandic eruptions. The ash matched a volcanic event approximately 9,000 years ago, one of the major eruptions that had reshaped the southern highlands. The eruption that had buried the chamber entrance under meters of lava. The final layer of paint on the woman's hands contained ash from the eruption that would seal them in forever. They had seen it, felt it, known it was coming, and they had mixed the ash into paint, applied it to her hands, completed the sequence, and then sat down to wait for the mountain to bury them. Since the discovery, researchers have proposed multiple theories to explain why 14 people would paint one woman's hands in layers and sit in formation around her until death. None provide a definitive answer, but together, they suggest the complexity of Mesolithic symbolic thought. Some anthropologists believe the woman was understood as a conduit, a living connection between the human circle and something beyond human reach. The painting of her hands transformed them from ordinary appendages into sacred instruments. Each layer represented a stage of transformation: red for blood, for life; black for depth, for void; white for bone, for permanence; yellow for sun, for energy; red again for completion, for return. The family circle sat around her, maintaining the geometry while her transformation completed. The ash mixed into the final layer acknowledged the volcanic force surrounding them, incorporating the mountain's power into her hands. Her upward reach toward the ceiling was an attempt to touch what the transformation should have made accessible. When nothing responded, they assumed final positions and waited for the mountain to complete what they could not. This theory explains the obsessive painting, the layered progression, the geometric isolation of the central figure, the selection of family members to maintain the circle, and the incorporation of volcanic ash as sacred substance. But it fails to explain why she came from outside the family. If she was a conduit, why not select someone from within the kinship group? Why bring an outsider to the center? Unless outsider status was required, unless the conduit had to be someone not bound by blood to those surrounding her. A more clinical interpretation suggests the woman had experienced something, a vision, a neurological event, a revelation that changed her perceived status. Perhaps she had survived volcanic exposure, witnessed an eruption, or demonstrated immunity to something that killed others. Her hands may have been the focus because she had used them during the transformative event. The painting served to amplify, preserve, or control whatever power her hands were believed to contain. The family gathered not to transform her, but to contain her, to surround her with bloodkin who could control or channel whatever she had become. The scratching at the ceiling represented her attempt to escape or ascend. The ceiling of the chamber ensured she couldn't leave. The waiting for death ensured the power died with her. This theory explains why genetic analysis shows she came from elsewhere, why the family maintained careful geometric distance from her, why her hands specifically were the focus of ritual attention, and why the chamber was sealed so completely. but it cannot account for the voluntary positioning. If this was containment, why would she cooperate? Why would she sit with arms extended, displaying the hands they had painted? Why would she scratch at the ceiling and then sit back down? Unless she was complicit, unless she believed the containment was necessary, unless whatever she had experienced made her dangerous even to herself. A darker theory proposes the painting was meant to mark, not transform. Perhaps the woman had touched something she shouldn't have, entered somewhere forbidden, handled something contaminated. Her hands became vectors of pollution, spiritual, not physical. The painting served as layered sealing. Each color was a barrier. Each layer attempted to contain what her hands carried. The family gathered to witness the sealing. To ensure the contamination went no further, the scratching at the ceiling was her attempt to transfer the contamination upward, into stone, away from living flesh. When that failed, she extended her arms to keep her painted hands away from her body, away from the circle displayed as warning, and they all waited for death to finalize the sealing. This theory explains the extreme measures sealed chamber, layered painting, geometric isolation. It accounts for why she came from elsewhere. She may have brought the contamination with her. It explains the family's participation as protective duty rather than devotional choice. But it provides no evidence of contamination. And it fails to address the care evident in the painting. The layers were applied with precision, mixed with binding agents, allowed to absorb properly. That's not the treatment of something dangerous. That's reverence, or preparation, or both. The most enigmatic theory suggests the woman was a keeper of method, someone who knew how to do something the family needed done but couldn't do themselves. Perhaps she knew how to paint in ways that created specific effects, how to prepare pigments that would absorb into bone, how to layer colors in sequences that meant something. The family gathered her, brought her to Iceland, sealed her in a chamber with them, and she painted her own hands according to the method only she knew. The final layer with volcanic ash incorporated the mountain into the technique. She scratched at the ceiling to test whether the method worked, whether painted hands could affect stone, could reach beyond flesh. When the method didn't produce the expected result, she assumed a display position, showing the completed work. And they all waited to see if death would activate what life couldn't, if the painted hands would function after breath stopped. This theory explains why she came from elsewhere. She had knowledge they lacked. It explains the precision of the painting. She was executing a technique. It explains the testing behavior, scratching the ceiling to check efficacy. It explains the final display position, presenting completed work. But it assumes a level of technical ritual practice unprecedented for this period. And it cannot explain what they thought painted hands could do, what transformation or power or access they believed layers of pigment would provide. Here's what we know for certain. 9,000 years ago, 15 people entered a volcanic chamber in southern Iceland. 14 were family, 1 was not. They sealed the entrance. They cut themselves off from air, from light, from the world above. And they began to paint. They ground pigments. They mixed them with seal fat and egg. They applied the paint to one woman's hands. Red ochre, base layer, absorbed into tissue. Black manganese, second layer, absorbed into bone. White clay, third layer, penetrating deeper. Yellow limonite, fourth layer, saturating structure. And finally red ochre again, mixed with ash from the volcano that was erupting outside, that would bury them forever. The woman sat at the center while 14 people surrounded her in 2 concentric circles. She stood. She reached upward. She scratched at the ceiling with her painted fingers, and then she sat down again. She tilted her head back. She extended her arms outward. She spread her painted fingers wide, displaying hands that were more color than bone. Hands that had absorbed so much pigment they would carry it into fossilization. And the 14 people sat in their circles, the inner 4 with hands extended toward her, the outer 10 with hands resting in their laps. And they waited. For 24 to 36 hours they sat in formation while oxygen depleted, while carbon dioxide accumulated, while consciousness began to fade. The woman held her head back, kept her arms extended, displayed her painted hands to a ceiling no one could see, until her muscles failed, until her breathing stopped, until there was nothing left but bones in formation, and hands so saturated with pigment that 9,000 years of burial couldn't fade them. We don't know what they believed painted hands could do. We don't know what they thought would happen when color penetrated bone, but we know they believed it completely. Every ground pigment, every applied layer, Every hour spent painting in darkness while air ran out. This wasn't decoration, this wasn't art. This was transformation attempted, method executed, technique completed. And whatever they thought painted hands would achieve, whatever power or passage or access they believed color could provide, it was worth 15 lives and a chamber sealed beneath a mountain. The chamber remains beneath solidified lava, inaccessible, permanent. But photographs preserve what was found. 15 people in concentric circles. And at the center, one woman. Arms extended, fingers spread, hands painted in layers so deep the color became bone, still displaying what they made of her, still showing what she became. If this story stayed with you, you're not alone. Hellir Malningana remains one of the most visually arresting discoveries in Mesolithic archaeology, and it raises a question we may never answer. What could 15 people have believed about painted hands that was worth dying in darkness to complete the painting? If you want to explore more mysteries like this, transformations we can witness but never decode, methods we can document but not replicate, stay with us. Every week, we descend into the spaces where color becomes meaning we cannot read. Leave a comment with your thoughts. What do you think the painted hands were meant to do? And if this story moved you, share it. These hands deserve to be remembered. Every color tells a story. This one tells of hands painted until they were more pigment than bone, and 15 people who sat in darkness to watch the painting complete. See you in the next layer.